This camera looks way better. This camera looks way better. The audio is probably something I can fix. Again, like, how do I know if this camera microphone is working? I can like record it with something else, right? Later. I don't like this. What if I switch it? But then the light's there. If I move the light, that's there. Actually, this lighting is that's pretty bad. I need the light there. How's that? What if it's like this? That? Does that work? Does that camera angle work? Why wouldn't it be? Alright, it's unfocused. Focus. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Why is this screen so much better than this screen? What if I get a ring light? That would work, right? That's in. On. Oh. Place that. No, that's too much light. Okay, so this should be good, right? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah. I saw a video comparing Morocco to Turkey, and that basically pushed me to make this video, to be honest. Reason being is because he was talking a lot about what it was like living in Turkey and what it was like living in Morocco. I have no idea what it's like living in Morocco, so I can't speak about that. I have been living in Turkey for the past couple of years, and there's a few things that I wish I knew before coming to Turkey. One of them being Islam, just how Islam is dealt with in Turkey as opposed to UAE, where I moved from. Islam in UAE is really, how do I say it? It's really everything, if that makes sense. Like, it's everywhere, in everything, all the time, basically. So like, there's Quran in the supermarkets, in the restaurants. There's, you know, Ramadan. You can see when it's Ramadan, you know it's Ramadan. Everybody sees it's Ramadan. When it's Eid, no one's working. No one's Eid. You know, it's a lovely environment to be in for Islam. You know, Quran schools everywhere, masjids everywhere. When you go to the masjids, they are not, I wouldn't say full, but there's a substantial amount of people in them. 3, 4, 5, 6 rows fill up. You know, quite a lot of people coming to the masjid on a frequent basis. Obviously, it depends on where you are in the UAE. Whereas coming to Turkey and then seeing the culture here with regards to the masjid, it's really shocking. One of the examples that I can think of is Jum'ah. Jum'ah in UAE is like, everybody comes to the masjid, all the masjids are packed, it's full, it's crazy, you know, there's a vibe. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, it's Jum'ah, you know it's Jum'ah, and mentally it's Jum'ah. I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten it was Jum'ah while being in Turkey, because it's just, it feels like a normal day, right? I mean, to summarize it, up until recently, it was a holiday. It was a holiday in UAE on Fridays, right? It was Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday was a work day. And only recently did they change that. So that's how much it was like, oh, Friday's Jum'ah, it's Jum'ah. And everybody knows that. Whereas here in Turkey, it's like, no, it's just Jum'ah. Like, it's not that big of a thing. I think a few months ago, I went to the one masjid. It was far out, to be fair. It was far out in a village that was quite small. And the first row didn't even fill up. And from my understanding, there was enough people to fill up the masjid. And there was like maybe 8 rows. The first row wasn't even full. And going there, onto that village, where my farm is, where my family's farm is, in that village, going to the imam on like Dhuhr and Asr on the other days, it's just us and the imam. Sometimes the imam doesn't even come because there's nobody in the masjid, so he just prays in his house. He doesn't go to the masjid because it's like opening everything. And so it's mind-blowing to me. Whereas in UAE, it's like salah and everything. But how they treat it is very respectful, I will say, because there have been a few experiences where I've basically gone to the masjid and there's been somebody at the gate, and then I've come back and they've been angry, like, hey, I was waiting here for how long? Where were you? I was calling and everything. And I was like, I was at the masjid. And instantly their faces change, and they're like, oh, okay, right, fair enough. Like a few days ago, the electrician was calling. He's like, I'm gonna come over to do some work because we asked him to, and he said, do you want me to come over now in 10 minutes? And I was like, oh, yeah, you can come over now. And he's like, yeah, but they're gonna call it then, like now. And I was like, oh, okay. He doesn't pray. Why? Allahu alam. But he doesn't pray. And he was thinking, okay, this person's gonna go to the masjid. I need him obviously at the house to come into the house. So let me wait until after Salah because I know he's gonna go to the masjid. Let me wait until after Salah to come. Which I found very interesting, very respectful, right? Because he could just be like, listen, I'm coming at this time. If you're there, work. If you're not there, I won't work. But there's a level of respect. I didn't even need to say anything. He automatically knew. He sees me go to the masjid a lot, so he's like, okay, you're going to the masjid, that's fine. I was even helping a lady on my way to Asr, and they had called her then, and I was walking, and she was taking some trash out. This is one of our neighbours, and she doesn't wear hijab, she doesn't go to the masjid. I don't even know if she's practicing, and I was helping her. I was just gonna go over to her to help take the rubbish into the bin, and she's like, no, go to the masjid. You're going to the masjid. Go. You're gonna be late. And I was like, okay. And so I walked off, and she's like, yeah, go. It's masjid. And I was coming back. She's like, Allah kabul etsin, right? Which my Turkish is horrible, but from my understanding is like, may Allah accept it. And I was thinking, I was like, these people, you never see them in the masjid, you never see them praying, you don't even see them, reading Quran or anything like that, and yet they've understood that this is such a fundamental part, and if you're doing it, that's good on you. I can't tell you how many times I've been introduced to other people as a good person because I pray. Like, I was going to the farmer, and he was introducing me to other farmers in the area, and he's like, this is Yusuf, he's a good person, he prays 5 times a day, and I'm like, I mean, I guess that's a good way of introducing you, but it's such a thing where it's like, I guess the best way I can describe it is how I'm rambling on, and I need to, if I'm making a video, I need to stop rambling and have my talking points. I can cut this and like have specific points, and then like edit it and then cut it out. Yeah, that works. That works. Alright, so what's another thing I wish I knew before moving to Turkey? Language barrier. If I knew Turkey was going to be... Okay, language barrier. I had no idea in the slightest that Turkey would be this difficult with regards to language. Not that the language is hard to learn, but if you've grown up in the UAE or any Gulf country, English and Urdu and Hindi is kind of like normal. Like if you can, most people speak multiple languages, right? So you can communicate anyway. Most people speak English in the Gulf. Well, from my experience in UAE, most people speak English anyway. So if you want to go anywhere or do anything, you can speak English and you can survive. That's not an issue. I know friends who've been there for 20 years, 30 years. I don't know friends who've been here for 30 years, but no uncles who've been there for like 30, 40 years and they don't speak much Arabic or Urdu, or they just speak English and they can get by fine because a lot of the signs of English, most people speak English, it's fine. Whereas when you come to Turkey, most of the people only speak Turkish. Mostly, that's it. And so you have to survive, I would say, you'd have to learn the language, because even you would think that in government offices and things where you would expect, because foreigners would be there, you'd expect people to be able to speak other languages. They don't. Like you go to immigration, there's like one person who speaks different languages, everyone else only speaks Turkish. And so you're having to stand there and trying to use Google Translate and be like XYZ, and they're just looking at you like... Sometimes it's actually really helpful. Sometimes they put in the effort, they'll come round to you and they'll try and use the Google Translate, they'll get the other their phone to use Google Translate and things like that. Sometimes I've had people call, this is not a government office, but somebody called someone else to talk to me, and actually no, he didn't call them for that. He called them because we were black. I think he was talking to my dad, and he's like, oh, I have this friend who's black, and he called and he gave us the phone. Well, what was it? I can't remember. I'm gonna have to cut this because I can't remember. But um, yeah, the language itself is actually very, very difficult because not difficult to learn, but just if you don't learn it, it's really difficult to survive. Because Turkish is not insane. It has a lot of similar words to Arabic. Alhamdulillah, I studied Arabic, so I know a bit of Arabic. And Urdu. I should know Urdu, being half Pakistani, but I don't. It's not something I'm proud of. Shouldn't even say it, to be honest. But anyway, there's those similarities and that aspect of things. Um, when you're in a place like Antalya where it's more uh, tourist centric, there are going to be more people that speak English, and especially if you're in Istanbul, there are going to be way more people that speak English. But from my understanding, a lot of people who want to move to Turkey want to move here for the more relaxed kind of lifestyle, so they'll choose to live in the villages on the outskirts of the city. So in those areas, predominantly, most people don't speak Turkish. Most people do not speak Turkish. Alhamdulillah, we've been fortunate enough to be in a village where there are a few people here and there that speak English, so that's a good thing, and as well as Arabic. I've met two Iraqis recently. Like they're just there, and I'm like, wow, it's kind of strange. Why does it look like my teeth is like a cavity? Is this one? Yeah, it's there at the back. But anyway, yeah. So I've met two Iraqis and like a lot of Syrians and things like that. So that's I'd say benefit of living in a tourist society. Another thing is with regards to Islam is that people expect Turkey to be, or I expect anyway, to Turkey to be like any other Muslim countries. I've been to Indonesia, alhamdulillah, I've been to UAE, that's about it. But in those countries, it's like, okay, Islam is very important, very practicing, very, strict. Whereas you come to Turkey, it's more like dialed back, way more, and not many people focus on the important things. So let me spend like 1 minute on each point. So I'm covering everything here, and so if I need to, that can be expecting Islam to be a central part of life. Like in I've covered that, so I can cut that out. How the Athan call to prayer is different. It's interesting. I'm in a village, so I can only really speak about that. But I believe it's the same in the city, where the masjid is not only used to call the masjid speakers are not only used to call the adhan, but also many other things. For example, like this morning there was a janaza, and so after Fajr, the Imam came out on the microphone and saying, there's a janaza. When we first moved here, I had no idea what it was. I thought it was just dua, but then he was like, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and he went on in Turkish on explaining X and X person has passed away. We're gonna hold the janaza X and X time, and so it's quite interesting actually, because for the first time I've never heard that kind of thing being called out from the adhan, from the masjid on the loudspeaker, like, hey, everybody's dying. I mean, we are, but that's not what I mean. But I mean, hey, this person has died, come to the masjid. And it's quite shocking, because when you think about it, if you're doing something and you're focusing on your work, or you're doing something you're not supposed to, or your mind is elsewhere, and then the speaker goes off, and it's not even time for salah. So because for me, I don't know about other people, but for me, salah times is kind of like because you're doing it for so long, you can feel it, and you're like, okay, it's salah time, it's gonna be in like a few minutes, 5 minutes. There are times where you're like, wait a minute, isn't salah supposed to be? But anyway, it's you have a rough feeling. But these announcements are just random at any time, and so when you're doing something, you're focusing on working and and then it'll just go inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and he'll be going on about such and such person has died, and this is when they're gonna hold the janaza, and it makes you stop and you think, subhanallah, I'm so caught up in this dunya, and then they just tell you, hey, it's like a reminder to go, hey, you're gonna die. So whatever you're doing, make sure it's important. And it works a lot of the time, because I'll be working, I'll be sitting back, and then I'll be like, subhanallah. it's not that deep. And then maybe I'll take my Quran out and then I'll start reading, or I'll be like, take a breather, walk outside, and realize actually most things we're concerned about isn't that deep. And you remember death, obviously. So that's a benefit there. Then contrast between religion and peace and secular culture. I think I discussed that. People being culturally Muslim, not necessarily practicing Muslim. I'd say, because it's like there's the culture of Islam that's there. People go for Eid, and they'll do Ramadan, they'll come for Jum'ah. Like the culture is there, but the actual day-to-day of reading Quran on a daily basis or going to Salah on a daily basis, those things, it's not specific. There was an example of, we were selling one of our chickens to our neighbor, and my dad was like, and he was like, okay, how much? And my dad was like, okay, X price. And he's like, okay, I'll send it to you now. My dad's like, no, you can send it to me later. You're taking the chickens now. He said, no, I'm gonna send it to you now. And my dad was like, whoa. He's like, listen, if I don't send it to you now, and I walk home and I get hit by a car and I die, then that's debt. I'm leaving. I shouldn't be doing it. And I was like, this guy only comes for Jummah. And so I'm like, oh, okay, subhanallah. And like, even there's been many times where I'll go to the shop and I'll pay for something, and then I'll be leaving and I forget the change. And they'll come running out of the shop and be like, here's your change. And I'll be like, oh no, it's not. And they'll be like, no, this is your right, take your change. And you're like, oh, subhanallah, they care about the importance, these little things. Now, the reasoning behind whether they care about it or why they care about it or not, I don't know, I can't say. I can't read minds, obviously. So, that's between them and Allah, I guess. I mean, I'm not gonna judge, but it's really nice to experience and to see that reality. Okay, the blend of East and West in Turkish society. I won't be discussing that because it's none of my business. Difference in social interaction. One thing I will say is that people I know have come to Turkey and been like, Turkey's not what I expected, right? There's so many people in inappropriate outfits and this and that and the other. And I don't disagree with you, those people all exist, but you're going to the areas where those things are prominent. I've been living in Turkey for the past 3 years, and I can't say I've really seen people in inappropriate dresses more than I have seen in UAE, right? Reason, obviously, we live out in the outskirts, in a village. We're not in town all the time, but even when I do go to town, there's certain times of the day. If you go early in the morning, those tourists are not really going to be up then. If you go late at night, obviously they're going to be up then. Midday, it's kind of give or take. Or if you go in the off season, where tourists are not really there, you can go into town, and everyone's covered because those are traditional Turks and stuff like that. But maybe not. It also depends on where you're going, right? If you're going to Lara or Kama, which the touristy areas in town, then yeah, of course you're gonna have people who aren't dressed well. But whereas if you're going to the conservative areas, you're gonna get people who are dressed well. So I wouldn't say that this is Turkey after going there once or twice into specific areas, because I've gone to villages. All the women are covered. Everyone's covered, and everyone's practicing. They're all going to the masjid and everything like that. So it's definitely a give and take, and depends on where you're going, of course. I'd say that obviously, if you're going to the hotels and the fancy places, those are definitely going to be full of tourists that are dressed inappropriately, because those are the primary audience that they're going to tailor that for that specific reason. Whereas there are villages and hotels and scenic places outside of the well-known touristy areas, which are I wouldn't say they're better. Depends on what you want, really. But in my area, in my preference, for example, I don't like the beach too much. I like the forests and the mountains. So I'll go into the forest, and there's really nice trails. Inshallah, I might go skiing this year. I'd love to. But yeah, there's options like that out there if you really want to do that. But that's up to you. Difference in social interactions and hospitality. Yeah, social interactions and like society is different, because in UAE, whether you want to accept it or not, there's really a class system, right? Obviously, there's Emiratis and the super wealthy, or I would say Emiratis, then the super wealthy, then like expats, and then like the workers that come from Southeast Asia and Africa, things like that. And there's really a class system, you can tell, right? Because if you're going to the petrol station, you know you're going to expect Filipinos or Bangladeshis or Pakistanis or stuff like that. You're not going to see an Emirati. But if you're at border passport control or like going to talk to a police officer or something like that, you're only going to see Emiratis. So there's definitely a divide there, and obviously the wealth is centered around the Emiratis predominantly. So if you see somebody in a nice car, traditionally you're like, Emirati or rich expat or something like that. Whereas in Turkey, everyone's a Turk. The rich, the poor, the fortunate, the unfortunate, everyone's a Turk. So it's kind of like universally, it's interesting to see that kind of dynamic anyway. The role of tea in coffee in Turkish culture. The role of tea is significant across every single country I've been to. It's just significant, except the West. By West, I mean the US. Texas, I haven't seen any of them drink tea. But like tea is just insane. Like, I had breakfast with one of the farmers, and I was sitting down eating with him and his family, and they just had like some bread and like melted butter and like some sausages that they made themselves and stuff like that, like little pieces and boiled eggs and something like that. Then they finished it. Alhamdulillah, it was like enough. It didn't like fill you up, but it was like one third of your stomach, like a sunnah. And then they just bring out tea, and then you'd have like 15 cups of tea, and then you just be full, and you're like, that's crazy. And the tea is similar. I can understand why they drink tea here, especially in the winter. I don't know why in the summer, but in UAE it's always summer, most of the time anyway, and they always drink tea, so tea is tea. Everyone loves it. Public modesty and fashion. What surprised you? Public modesty. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious. Most of the people in UAE are covered in traditional, more so clothing, whereas people in Turkey are more westernized. You know, everyone's going to be wearing top trouser, and the women are, God knows what they're wearing. The difference in work-life balance. Yeah, work-life I've found in UAE. I haven't worked in UAE, so I can't say that, nor have I worked in Turkey really. But from what I've experienced and what I've seen is that Turkey works 6 days a week, like early morning to late at night. I have a friend who works in translation, and he works, from Monday to Saturday, from like 9 to 6 or 7 or something like that, and he's getting like a bit better than minimum wage, or better than minimum wage. Nothing ridiculous, but so I don't know too much about the work-life balance there, to be honest. Challenges and adjustments, bureaucracy, how long things take versus expectations. I'd say it really depends. Sometimes you can get things really fast, other times not so fast. Like I've been waiting for this Turkish driving license thing for months, and they've just given me the like date for the exam, which is in like 7-8 days, inshallah. So inshallah I do well in the exam. It's just a theory, so I haven't even started the driving lessons. But like the theory book is strange because it has German in it for some reason. I mean, I'm nitpicking here. There's like one paragraph in a 300-page book that has German. But to be honest, the English isn't that great, and it kind of just seems like they just use Google Translate to just copy the books, which, I mean, fair to them, they're trying to use time, but if I'm trying to learn how to drive, I feel like it's important for me to know this information. But anyway, language barrier, discussed that. Adjusting to different pace of life. Fast in some areas, slow in others. Yeah, I think a different pace of life, probably the biggest thing for me, the biggest difference would be in UAE, you can't really go anywhere without a car. And in Turkey, you can go pretty much everywhere without a car. I mean, it's not ideal, of course, but there's public transportation is way better, I would say, because it's more effective, right? In UAE, I remember not being able to go out unless somebody picked us up or somebody took us with their car or something like that. But now, if I'm meeting friends in town, I can just, you know, pop down on the bus. It's not ideal here because we're in a village, of course, and the bus only comes once every hour, something like that. Maybe they've changed it recently. But yeah, but the transportation system in town is actually really good. Like you wait like 5 6 minutes, and they're up there fast. It's clean, very clean, very much like UAE. I went on the tube in London, and that's what I'm gonna say. It's a sight, to be honest. Public transportation, yeah. Also music. Music is like like I know there's music in UAE, but it's not as predominant in day-to-day society as in Turkey, for sure. Navigating public transport versus car culture in UAE. Yeah, I mean, car culture. I'd say biggest lessons and advice for newcomers: keep an open mind and adapting to. Yeah, I'd say don't think they're racist. Like, I mean, I can give you a few examples of times people have, like, there's this one, I think he's Azerbaijani uncle, or somebody somewhere from Southeast Asia, an uncle who comes to the masjid frequently. He's more of an introvert, and I think his brother came one time, and he came to the masjid and he saw us, and we were walking back home, and he's like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And it's kind of obvious we're dark skinned, well, black if you want, and he's like, "Oh, can I take a picture with you?" And you're like, "Yeah, sure." And I remember like a politician came by to the masjid, and he saw, and one of his like PR members was like, "This is gold." And so he had like, we obviously, because I'm I have a big family of like me and my brothers and my dad. It's like, "Oh, smile, smile, take a picture with us." And then there was an experience where like there's been times we've gone to shops and we're like, "We want to get this," and they're like, "Are you X and X's son?" And you're like, "Yeah." Wait, which one? Like which person? And they're like, "The big black guy." And you're like, "Yeah, that's my brother, or that's my dad," or something like that, because there's not many black people here. And so there was one time my dad went to the dry cleaners, and he forgot his receipt, and he went back to them, and he was thinking, "How am I gonna ask for them for the thing that I gave them to dry clean?" And they saw him. They're like, "What are you doing?" And my dad was like, "I forgot the receipt." And the guy was like, "Your face is the receipt. Like I there's not, like, I know obviously which one is yours because you don't need it." And so I was like, "That's funny." Well, you see people online that be like, "Oh, that's racist because he shouldn't be judging you by the color of your skin." Obviously, he's gonna judge you by the color of your skin, but clearly obvious. There's only like one black guy of a million white people. I mean, that's that sounds racist. I'm not gonna put that in the video. That sounds racist. Yeah. What do you wish you knew before moving? I mean, that was the whole point of this entire thing. Why I really wish I knew before moving would be have an open mind. I felt for some reason that Turks would be uneducated. I don't know why. Like I just had this thing where I was like, "Ah, they're probably not educated," but they are very much educated, more so than me in pretty much every aspect. It's difficult now. It's difficult to move to Turkey now, from my understanding, due to the visa situation and obviously residency and all of that. So it's not the easiest. Not to mention the price of the lira is shot up. That's horrendous. The price of the lira is not the best, and inflation is ridiculous. And in the past, it was like, okay, inflation is not bad, especially for expats. Inflation is not bad for us because the conversion rate is good as well, so we can like balance it out and everything. But now the conversion rate stayed the same, but inflation's gone up. So even for expats, it's expensive, which is one of the main reasons most people move to Turkey, because it was affordable or cheap, and it was like a good investment. But now it's questionable. I have no idea how to end the video, to be honest. That's all my thoughts for the time being on whether you want to move to Turkey or not. I hope this was helpful. I hope, inshallah, you'll have benefit from this. Do you know what? This actually, man, I'm gonna release this. I'm actually gonna release this because, you know what? Just put it out there and have a look and just go for it, because at the end of the day, who cares? And nobody cares. Honestly, truthfully, nobody cares. Like, that's just a fact. I'm gonna move this out of the way. This here, and then I'm gonna close those cupboards, or like blur those in the background or something, and just not show that. If I tilt it there, I did that, but it will show this. Let me take this one. That's there. And there'll be like a thumbnail or something, like just sitting down, just talking and saying it. I can make this into like a 2-part series and probably add something to it later down the line if necessary, because man, it's late. I wanted to go to bed early today, but I ended up just talking. It's fun, to be honest. It's fun. It feels natural. It doesn't feel insane to talk to the camera. It doesn't feel ridiculous. I mean, I've talked to myself so many times, but to record it and to see myself talking to myself is incredible. Like, I've never actually considered doing this, but I guess just have like a Turkey and UAE kind of thing. My teeth, why do they look like they're... Oh, it's this one, isn't it? It's not, it's this one. It's this one. It looks like it's in their back, and, you know, it looks like there's a big... the camera's flipped, so it looks off. I mean, what else can I really talk about in like, Turkey? Give me more GBT. I mean, I'm in a vibe right now. More things to discuss. And how to end the video would be ideal, because I have no idea how to end the video. Expectation versus reality, Islam, halal food, lifestyle. I mean, food is always, like, if it's halal, it's a Muslim country. I mean, masjid culture. Masjid culture is different. In UAE, you go to the masjid, you pray salah, and you leave when you want to. Like, you join when you want to, and you leave when you want to. It's kind of like, because there's so many people, it's like, in and out, in and out, in and out. Whereas in Turkey, because not too many people come to the masjid often, the people who do come to the masjid kind of have like a community thing, so everybody really gets there at the same time and leaves at the same time. It's really strange. Like, since the time I've been here, I can say there's been like maybe 5, maybe 10 instances of people coming late and praying, you know, extra rak'ahs after salah is finished, because they're making up the rak'ahs they missed. It's typically us. It's typically me and the expats who come late because we're like, alright, salahs when we join and everything like that. But they have this whole culture of, you know, you come early to the masjid. Most of them are there before the adhan is finished. They're all sitting in the masjid, and then they'll, after the adhan is finished, they all do the dua together, like Allahumma salli ala hadhihi ad-da'wati at-tamma wa salati qa'ima. So they'll do that all together, and then they'll pray. Like, for example, Dhuhr, they'll pray 2 rak'ahs, 4 rak'ahs before salah, and then they will... I've lost words for them. Then they'll pray together, they'll start salah together, finish. They do pray very fast, I will say this. In Ramadan, it's a completely different story, and I'll leave that for a Ramadan video. But in Ramadan, it's anyway. During the salah, it's not ridiculously fast, but it's fast, I would say. And you finish salah, and then they have this thing where they'll do a communal dhikr. After every single salah, they'll always do a communal dhikr, and the imam finishes, and then one of the people behind the imam starts, you know, saying certain du'as, and then he'll lead them, and he'll be like subhanallah, and then everyone else will go subhanallah. and then he'll go Alhamdulillah like aloud, and then we'll go Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, and it's like that kind of, whether I don't participate in it. I don't know whether it's allowed or not to do something like that, but hey, I'm not gonna judge. And they just do their own thing. Obviously, we do our own thing, and we'll be in the corner and we'll do our own dhikr the way we would usually do on our own. And then they'll finish. Then after they've done the dhikr, they'll do a du'a communally. Oh no, not community. They'll do it individual. Like they'll all start say du'a, like basically du'a, and everyone puts their hands up and starts reading their own du'as. Then the imam would be like al-Fatiha, and then they'll all read Fatiha, and then it's finished. Then they all get up, and they're like, okay, we're leaving now. And so that's kind of how it operates. Whereas in UAE, it's like UK, where it's like, I'm coming in when I want to come in. I'll come in, pray salah, and leave. Like if I want to leave immediately, I can. If I want to leave after I pray my salah, I can. If I want to stay and read, like everyone's doing their own thing. Whereas in Turkey, it's like, come in as a group, pray as a group, leave as a group, which I can see there's benefits to it for definitely, and I think it's a really good culture to have that aspect of things. For the most part, I was expecting people to be like, you're praying wrong, right? You're praying wrong and stuff like that. But most generally speaking, they'll just be like, from what I've seen, they'll just be like you pray how you want to pray, you know. We'll pray how we want to pray. It's fine. There's no issues. There's nothing. They understand like, you pray like that. That's fine. Like for example, when we're doing Allahu Akbar, they won't raise their hands. They won't raise their hands when they're sliding salah. But when you're going to ruku', they won't raise their hands like Allahu Akbar and then go into ruku', which is what I do. So they've asked me about it like a few times, and they're like, why? And I'm just like, that's just how I grew up doing it. And they're like, okay, this is how we grew up doing it ourselves. I've led salah for them a few times, and from what I've understood, they were like, maybe it's better you don't lead salah, because the older people don't know that it's okay to pray the way that I pray. Like for example, when I'm raising my hand, like in the ruku', and then they'll be like, that's wrong, you should, that's absolutely, because one of them was explaining to me that they've only known this particular way, and they don't know that there's like obviously other madhabs that you can follow and pray in a certain way. And so I was like, oh okay, so that's the masjid culture. Ramadan difference, Eid difference. I think Eid, no, I talked about Jum'ah. East, West, they have this thing in Turkey called Kandil, which is like, I think 4 or 5 holy nights throughout the year. One of them is like Mawlid, the other one is with Mawlid being the Prophet's birthday, and the other one was the others were, I think the other one was Isra al-Miraj, then there was Laylat Qadr, and I think there's 2 or 3 other ones. And I don't exactly know what those were for, but basically from what I understand, how they deal with it is like at Isha time, they'll all come to the masjid, there'll be a lot more people come to the masjid, then they'll pray, and then they'll give out food, and do du'as and stuff like that, read Quran, and then go. I've never actually stayed for that entire experience, because I don't know if it's something that's good or not, I don't know, so I have to definitely clarify with the sheikh whether that's like bid'ah or just, I'm not gonna discuss that, man. That's controversial on that. Hospitality difference. Hospitality. I'd say hospitality wise, they're very much the same. Very much the same. I've been with a lot of very nice families in UAE as well as in Turkey, and they treat you like family, which is really nice. So I'd say the hospitality is very, very same. All I'd say is that in UAE it's more, when I've gone to the Emiratis household, it's more like, we'll sit down, we'll eat and stuff like that, and it's like a more formal kind of gathering, and it's like, okay, the maid brings out the food and the servers bring out the food, and we eat and we talk and we laugh and stuff like that, and so it's more like formal and classy. Whereas in Turkey, if I'm eating with the farmer, his wife will be making the food, and my mom will probably go in and help her make the food, and I'll sit down and we'll help set the table or something, and then we'll 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 eat together on the floor or stuff like that. So I mean, it's not we don't eat together on the floor in UAE. We do that a lot, but it's more like on the balcony on his house. Like it's a small balcony. It's like it's different. Like it feels more homely. Where if UAE hospitality is more classy, especially when you're dealing with the Emiratis. The Turkish hospitality, especially when you're dealing with like farmers and not like everyday workers, it's more homely. If you get what I'm saying, like it feels more like nobody's trying. Like it's like I remember walking into their house, the farmer's house, and I was like, I don't want to step inside because my clothes were dirty because I was just working out the farm in their farm, and I didn't bring any extra clothes. And the son went into the back, or the mom went into his son's room, pulled out some of his old trousers, and was like, "Yeah, this is clean," and so I had to change into the new clean trousers, and the son walked up and he's like, "Oh, it's too small for you, let me get a bigger pair." And so they would just give me their trousers and I'd wear it, and then I'd give it back to them when I'm finished. And I was like, they were like, "Yeah, there's a room over there, just close the door, you can go change over there." But because obviously you don't want to be bringing dirty clothes into the house. To eat, social norms, fashion and modesty. It's excessive. Tea culture, coffee expectations, breakfast culture. Breakfast culture, I'd say it's the same. Like, there's nothing different drastically. Getting residency permit, opening a bank account, dealing with paperwork, public services. Public services, like language barrier, especially when you're dealing with like. I guess it depends on who you're dealing with, but it does very much help. Cost of living is cheaper than UAE, from my understanding. Shopping expectations. Shopping expectations, like for example, I think one of the things living in Turkey is, I would say, not as good. I mean, it depends on what you really want. Because in UAE you have everything. You have international brands from all over the world in UAE, and it's like, oh, you can get anything you really want anywhere in the world. Whereas in Turkey, it's more focused on Turkish brands. So it limits your kind of options to what you're able to get. Like for example, if I wanted a hobnob or jammy toja, then I could get that in UAE. Whereas I can't get that in Turkey. That's from UK, so I can get it. But I can't get that in Turkey. I can get like a doner kebab. So I can get that in UAE as well. So I think the in terms of food and like shopping and things like that, there's more variety in UAE. Quality wise, I'd say they're about the same, but I feel like in Turkey you get more for your money, if that makes sense. Like you get higher quality things for a cheaper price, just because it's made domestically. I don't know how that has anything to do with quality, because I just don't know. But anyway, it's nice talking to you. Myself being. It'd be interesting if I show this video to other people in the future. They were like, "Yusuf, you're retarded. These are horrible." And I could be like, "Yeah, but at least I did it. At least I did it. I made a video. Like I put myself on the camera, and I was like, 'Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel.'" That's horrible imitation of that. Like, God, I need to end the video. Assalamu alaikum.